Look to Ben Shiar. I think this is our first post-Tainus Shir. So maybe a good time to talk about cookies. Any kind you want. Use your imagination. There's a story, it's a famous story about a person, Yidla comes into the airport and he sees his flight is delayed. So he sits down, he makes himself comfortable, and he opens up his bags and he takes out many bags of food that he has over there for his long flight. Jews always take food with them wherever they go. Somebody once said, when you want to see if someone is a traveler, is Jewish, you see two things when you're driving. Either buses, wherever there's a lot of buses, there's usually Jews. I don't know why. And in Williamsburg, you drive by, you say, buses, you know. Shras Hashchina. And then there is food. So he sits down with his food, and he takes out his cookie bag. And then another Yiddilah sits down next to him. You know, you nod to each other. And he notices that, so he takes himself a cookie, makes a bracha, and this other guy helps himself to a cookie. Oh, so nice of you. He takes a cookie, the other guy takes a cookie. At least he's doing it in an orderly fashion. You know, and he's like, how are you? Where are you from? Where are you going? I'm going fine. And you, and like this is going cookie for cookie for cookie. And he goes, these are good cookies, aren't they? Oh, yes, I realize. Yeah. Like, I didn't realize mice are supposed to be 10%, not 50%. What was that? I don't know. And his blood is cooking. A chutzpah, this guy. Sitting at every second cookie he takes. Like, he asked me, I'd give to him. And as the man walks away, he's like, his blood is boiling. He looks around. He's trying to figure something out. And he realizes that his bag of cookies that he took out of the suitcase is untouched, unopened. That he took out his bag and he started inadvertently eating from the other guy's cookies. That man wasn't eating from his cookies. He was eating from his friend's cookies. So suddenly, this person who was a shtikl mechutzef became not only a machnisayrach, but he didn't even say anything. He just walked away. And to a certain degree, that's our attitude toward tshuva. That in the course of life, we have tainas on the Kadosh Baruch Hu. And the Rebbe kinds of explains to us, now you see, it's my cookie bag. You see, life is a gift. So where are your tainas? Where do your tainas come in? You're confused? Things aren't going your way? Things aren't going your way. So what's Tzayim Gedalia? So every Rebbe comes in Tzayim Gedalia morning, which is a great teaching day, after 2 days Rosh Hashanah, and you come in and you're fasting, which is always mesugel for calm nerves, and you say to the kids, you know, Gedalia was killed. You know why he was killed? Because he should have listened when they warned him that they're about to kill you, and he didn't listen. And that's why he was killed. Now, I don't know if that's true. I don't know if that's why he was... I mean, technically that's why he was killed. I don't know if that was the einish that he was killed. That's the metzias of what happened. There was some other factor that led to the fact that, in Shemayim, that there was a gzeira should be killed. So one kid, 1 year, in the 8th grade, asked me a very good question. He goes, Rebbe, the whole Elul, we're hearing again and again how terrible Lashon Hara is, how terrible Lashon Hara is, how terrible Lashon Hara is, right? And the day after Rosh Hashanah, you come in and you say, the guy made a mistake for not listening to the Lashon Hara. So I stopped for a second. I said, he has a good point. So I said, well, it's not that he's not supposed to do, well, you know what the halach is. If someone warns you about something, you're not supposed to accept it as a fact. You're supposed to be chayshish for it and take precautions. Okay, but still, like everything, the whole Elul is not a word of Lashon Hara, and then right after Rosh Hashanah, and it's not necessarily even right after Rosh Hashanah. It could be Gedalia, according to some, was killed on the second day of Rosh Hashanah. Just we can't fast on Rosh Hashanah. We already have a whole Indian of a guy. Well, you're not supposed to listen to Lashon Hara, but you're supposed to be chayshish, and because of that he was killed, and because of that the whole Golas. They said, you know, really that's what Rosh Hashanah is all about. Because it comes Rosh Hashanah, we make up our mind that we're going to do the right thing. And very often, what we perceive to be the right thing is not necessarily the right thing. This is the first lesson after Rosh Hashanah. Yes, now I'm going to do tshuva, now I'm going to be perfect. And then inevitably we run into complications where we think we're doing the right thing and we're not doing the right thing. And you can get terribly frustrated. It's a good bunch of I'm trying to not to hear Lashon Hara. Now I'm supposed to listen, I'm not supposed to listen, like what do you want from me? Yeah, what I want from you is to understand that you have to try, and there are going to be bumps on the road, and there are going to be misconceptions, and you're going to have to go back to your Rebbeim, go back to the core in life, and start again. This is exactly what the lesson is. I want you to go back ever so much more and adhere to the halachos of Lashon Hara, knowing that there are times you have to know when to listen, when not to listen. So this guy tells me, before Mincha, he's like talking to me by Ashrei, which I kind of, I did mine, but he kept talking. And then he starts Shemon Esrei, and then he goes, all right, no, I can't talk to you anymore. As if, I wasn't talking to you. He goes, I have to concentrate now. I said, just now? Yeah, because if you don't concentrate during the Aseret Yimei Tshuva, you wind up repeating Shemon Esrei like 10 times. Did I say Kei L'Kadosh? Did I say Melech HaKadosh? I'm not sure. I think. I didn't. It's like, I can't. I don't want to last, So I said, I at first thought, I was thinking to myself, is that the reason to concentrate? So you don't have to repeat Shemon Esrei 10 times? And I said, yeah, that's the reason to concentrate. The reason to concentrate is to at least acknowledge that you have to bear in mind what you're doing and there's a responsibility to it. Maybe that having to repeat Shemon Esrei is the whole point of the Melech HaKadosh. That to a king you're accountable for. Yeah, you have to think. I said, the guy's going for a walk on the street. It's a beautiful scenery. It's gorgeous. It's such a beautiful day, and everyone's smiling to each other. He says, it doesn't get better than this. And suddenly somebody out of nowhere comes and gives him a zetz on his chest. Boom! And he goes, what? Who? And I was Shnu, Shah. He realized it was the Milah Shemon Esrei, but by Slach Lonu, he hit himself, and he woke himself up to look around. So yes, part of a Melech HaKadosh is to realize how, concentrate. Think what you're doing. So I had an interesting experience. A friend of mine was parked in front of the yeshiva, right in front of the yeshiva, and he ran out of gas. Okay, so we're not going to bother Chaverim. We went to the gas station on the corner and got one of those red things which you fill up. I think they make it only works once. I'm not sure, but anyway, I wonder why. So we pour it in. We pour in the gas, a gallon of gas. We get in, and now the car doesn't start. There's a great gallon of gas inside. So back and forth, and this fellow comes by from yeshiva. Does he want me to help you? No, we don't need your help. We know how to pour gas into it. Want me to help you? It's not starting. Goes, should we get another gallon of gas? No. He says, what are you supposed to do? He says, you're supposed to jump on the back bumper. Hello, it's before Yom Kippur, not before Purim. What do you mean you're supposed to jump on the back bumper? And he says, the gas has to circulate into the fuel injectors. You only have a gallon of gas and you're empty. So if you shake the car, if you jump on the back bumper, the car goes up and down, and then the gas will circulate. Now, I wasn't sure if he was pulling my leg or this was a Purim stunt. If it wasn't the Aseret Yimei Tshuva, I would say, this is not some kind of a joke, right? No. So me and my friend, we climbed onto the back bumper, and we're jumping up and down. And somebody else comes out and looks at us and says, what are you doing? So, you see this gas circulating and fuel injectors. Right. He walks away. When we get off the car, and sure enough, the engine starts. So what's the Mussar Haskel? The Mussar Haskel is, we try to get our act together. We try to do tshuva. We try so hard. Trying to daven, I'm trying to learn. It's not happening. If anything, I get slapped in the face for it. You're not getting slapped in the face for it. You're getting shook up a little bit so that the gas should circulate in your fuel injectors. The Rebbe Hashem shakes us up a little. That's in order to get us to get things moving. Now, if you walked out of your house and you saw a total stranger jumping up and down on your bumper, your back bumper, you would call the police, right? If you walk outside and you see your best friend jumping up and down on your bumper, so you would think either he had a little bit too much l'chaim last night, or, he has some reason to help you. The Rabbi Shalom sometimes does things to us that we don't understand. But if you're maimin b'yamunah shalema that this is my Father in heaven that's doing it to me, even what is going on over here? Why is my cage being rattled? Then you understand that the Kadosh Baruch Hu is doing it for a reason. And the reason is to bring out the best that is within you. Sanzarov once went through a very difficult period in his life. And he says, at first he was taken aback, and then full blast forward. So he says, you walk on the street and someone gives you a zetz on the back. Whoa! Then you turn around, you see it's your best friend. So you go, that's a different kind of a zetz. It's like, how you doing? You don't necessarily appreciate when he does it to you when you're holding a hot coffee in your hand. But Lamaisa, he meant well. Kal v'chomer, if it's your father, if you realize it's your father that's giving you the zetz, that's doing it. Very, very different kind of a world. Rabbi Sanzarov lost one of his children in his lifetime, Rabbi Meir Nosson. He actually went out and there was an epidemic going on. There was a Magefa, and there was typhus, malaria, one of those things, and it was contagious, and there was no disease control center to take care of it. And he went in there to take care of the people and fed them and washed them, knowing good and well that he was risking his life. And then he wasn't feeling well, and he came back, and he wanted to ask a bracha from his father because he understood the danger to him. He didn't want to wake. They told him his father was sleeping. He didn't want to wake up his father, and he passed away. So it was a very, that Shabbos, the Sanzura feared Tish, and he asked that they bring from England a certain kind of beer. He asked for a certain kind of beer. Now, from England to Sanz wasn't exactly easy to. You couldn't overnight it with Federal Express. But Chassidim are Chassidim, and it's Chassidim Express, and they got it for the Rebbe somehow. They managed to get the beer. And he said that particular type of beer, that British kind of beer, was extremely bitter. But after you develop a taste to it, people get mamish, like almost addicted to it. And he wanted this beer, the whole Shabbos. And everyone understood the message, that there are things in life that are so bitter, so bitter. But if you have patience and you understand that there is a hashgacha in the course of life, the very bitterness becomes sweet. It's interesting. His wife, this Rabbi Meir Nosson's wife, burst into tears. And she said, "You didn't want to wake up your father? If I would have been there," she wasn't there at the time. "If I would have been there, I would have woken him up." So the Sanzarov told her, "And if you'd woken me up, what do you think I could have done?" "There were plenty times that you demanded of Hashem." He says, "I used to do that, but I don't do that anymore. It's too dangerous. I can't do it anymore. Even if you would have woken me up, it wouldn't have helped." I don't know what that means, but I think if you understand what the Sanzarov was doing for the Almana, he didn't want her to live with the guilt that if she would have been there, somehow she would have woken her up. You understand the greatness. But I think we see something else over here. We see that there's a process. We're talking about the Sanzarov, we're talking about Malachim, but it doesn't always happen. It's not that you get slapped in the face and that's so sweet. "Oh, Hashem is doing it to me. Gewaldig. Oh, I lost my money. Oh, I'm going bankrupt. Oh, a parking ticket for a fire. I know what other wonderful things are going to happen to me today." It doesn't work that way. You get hit. It's a process of you work yourself back and throw yourself into the hashgacha to understand that this is a hashgacha. This is what's happening. The detergent is bitter, but it does its job to clean. The HaKadosh Baruch Hu cleans us sometimes. Now, so we say, it's interesting. This Rabbi Meir Nosson who passed away, his son was Rav Shlomo Babav, the first Babav Rav. His son was Rav Ben Zion. One day I'll do this, not this particular shir, but all the major Chassidisim that are today, that survived the war, that blossomed, almost one by one, there's a story of a Zayda that risked or gave away his life for other people. It's not pashut, who endures and who doesn't. Al Kopanim. So we say to HaKadosh Baruch Hu, look where we are. We're a Keili Mole Bushach Lima. We're a vessel full of embarrassment, full of disgrace, says the Bel Zerav. You know what that means? You're a vessel full of embarrassment. You're not a piece of embarrassment. You're a beautiful vessel. The vessel is full of embarrassment. You spill out the embarrassment. You do tshuva, then you're fine. We're a vessel full of detergent. Yeah, it's also bitter when it's full of detergent, but the purpose is to clean it. That's what the Aseres Yemei Tshuva is all about. Now, I had a friend who, shall we say, a big guy in many different ways, okay? And he was trying to lose weight, and it wasn't working. And he tried all different kinds of diets and non-diets and exercise programs and pills and starvations and running. And he has jogging suits to buy, and exercise equipment, everything. He just... And once I realized he did lose a couple of pounds. I said, "Yeah, what was it now?" He said, "The Atkins diet, to this diet, eat only potato chips, only meat, only mayonnaise. How does it work?" And he said, No. He says, one nutritionist sat down, and he said it to me very different than everyone else did. He said, most people sat down, or the doctor sat down, as I got onto the scale. He said, whoa, take it easy. On my scale, Ding, ding, ding. 300 pounds, what's with you? He says, he sat me down, and he said to me, "Mr. So-and-so, do you know you weigh 300 plus pounds?" I said, "Yes, you don't have to rub it in." He said, "You're such a beautiful person. He says, okay, except that I'm a 300-pound love. No, it's not how he said it. He said, you're an 180-pound beautiful person. The problem is those extra 210 pounds. You're not a 300-pound love. You're a 180-pound beautiful person. He said, he gave me that will to get down to that 180 pounds of beautiful person. And that's a very important makar in tshuva. It's not that we're chote and we're nothing, we're a piece of garbage. You're a piece of garbage, you're a piece of garbage. Pieces of garbage can't do tshuva. We're beautiful people. The neshama remains pure. There could be a lot of chait and dirt on top of the neshama. The purpose is to polish it down. You cannot be poigem the neshama. There are three parts of the neshama. We've discussed this earlier. There's the chelik hanefesh, chelik haruach, chelik haneshama. The neshama actually stays in Shemayim like a satellite that hovers above the neshama. Because Baruch Hu doesn't allow it to go down to this world so that it does not get damaged. Doesn't get damaged. The nefesh, the chelik hanefesh, stays within us. There's the ruach, which is the modem that goes between the neshama that is above us and the nefesh. Al tirasha b'fnei atzmecha. Because if you convince yourself you're a rasha, why should I try? I'm a 300-pound love. What's the point? But if I'm a 180-pound beautiful person that has to get rid of some extra pounds, it's a different story. If my neshama is so pure, and it has to be pure, and by hook or by crook it's going to be cleaned, I may as well get to work right now. Al tirasha b'fnei atzmecha. Your atzmius is not a rasha. But if you convince yourself you're a piece of garbage, so it's not going to work. You know, there's all sorts of shittas about opening up sodas on Shabbos. You are allowed to, you're not allowed to. This is the rice, this is the rabbanon. I'm not getting into that now. So what do a lot of us do? I don't want to mention names. We say to the kid, here's a soda, you want to open it? Yeah. I'm not sure if that helps if you hold the sister the rice, even if someone opens it, you're not allowed to use it. But Lamaisa, so that's what we do. So I have these ices that you crack them in half. If you know what they are. Like they come two pieces, they're called crack. So it's then different shit. So you're allowed, you're not allowed, you are like not allowed on the box, so you're not allowed, there's different, not getting into the halachic aspect of it. So a little anical is here, right? So I'm giving out these ices, oh great, giving out these ices. Then he comes to me, he says, Zaidi, says, yeah. Canst this brechen, can you break it for me? So I said, no, Sheifele, you break it. He goes, ich kenish, I can't. I said, you could. He says, no, it's Shabbos. So I'm beginning to think, and I said, we're teaching him this, right? We're teaching him. You don't do it as long as someone else does it. It's okay. You know, as long as you give it off to someone else, it works. We are what we teach ourselves. We are what we project. Somebody there were two sets of parents, meaning one set of parents, I should say, a mother and a father. They wanted their son to go to a certain school, which may have not been appropriate for his neshama. Those neshama would have not been nivgam, but there would have been a lot of chait on the neshama, so to speak. And the boy didn't want to go, and eventually they went to Rav Moshe to see if he has to listen to his parents. And Rav Moshe heard the shaila, he said not to go. So the father was a shtickle mechutzef, and the father said to Rav Moshe, well, it says shloisha shutfim biyadam. Every person has three partners: his father, his mother, and Hashem. So he said to Rav Moshe, you're only boss on the Hashem part. You're a Rav, you can say what Hashem wants. So 1/3 of partner wants this. The other 2/3, the mother and the father, want something else. We win, it goes with the majority. So Rav Moshe told them, you're making a mistake. Because the mother and the father themselves are also divided into three. Their father and their mother and Hashem. So if you count up Hashem's shares in all of us, Hashem has the majority. If you understand the depth of that answer, you can't run away from HaKadosh Baruch Hu, because HaKadosh Baruch Hu gives you life. Chait is a facade. I remember once I was with a family member of mine, my father's years ago, in the burn unit. It's not a lovely place to be. And I remember this girl saying to the doctor, can you make me back the way I was? I said, isn't that what Tisha B'Av, what Rosh Hashanah is all about? To make us back the way I was. The time of the virus says, how can you logically be moichel somebody? Think. Every person in the world, the person that hurt you the most, the person that caused you the most grief and the most pain, there was a time before he caused you pain. There was a time when he was a little child, he didn't cause anyone pain yet. Go back to that time. Go back to that part. That's the zacharti lo chesed niyarayich. So they always tell people about my car. It was once new. As a matter of fact, it's one of the reasons is when you drive a brand new car out of the showroom, it's now a used car. So the value of that car went down 20%. You buy a car that's 2-3 years old. The more you drive it, the more wear and tear, the value goes down. My car, the value doesn't go down anymore. I said, I want something where the value doesn't go down, right? Go back to where you were to start with. Hashem doesn't hate us. Hashem wants to clean us. So they say the Chavetz Chaim once stood, they looked out the window, there was a terrible storm, like a tornado storm. And the trees are falling and snapping, and everything is shaking outside. And they want the Chavetz Chaim, he's an old man, to go away from the window. And he's standing there by the window. Reb, they wanted to know what he was saying. And he was looking out the window and he was saying like this, Tata, was willst du? Father, what do you want? Tell me what you want and I'm going to do it. Now, there's two ways of saying, what do you want? You can say, what do you want? That's one way of saying it. Or you can say, what do you want? I want to help you, right? It's all in the nigun. Like that story I told you many times from the Even Ezra. The Even Ezra had a very, very difficult life. He said that if he would have gone into candles, it would have never gotten dark. If he would have gone into tachrichim, nobody would have ever died. The Rambam said the Even Ezra had the ruach of Avraham Avinu. That the ruach of Avraham Avinu means simcha. How does that work? So they say the Even Ezra once heard that somewhere there's a parchment which has on it a text of Chumash with the trup, the musical connotations on top. In those days, trup was very hard to come by. And it was during a time of war, but he couldn't hold himself back. He risked his life to get it. On the way back, he was stopped by a bunch of soldiers. They opened up the Chumash. They said, what are these? Aha! Code to the enemy. That's what these things are. He said, no, this is the trup. He goes, Ma'apach, Pashtas, okay, no. These are secret codes to the enemy. He said, no, it's not. These are you risked your life for musical notes, right, in a war, to walk in a war zone. So they lock him up. Here comes the big general. He says, tell me the truth. What is this? I understand you risked your life for the Bible. You risked your life for these musical notes? So the Even Ezra looks at him and says, I need you. Oh, really? Nerves. Storms out, slams the door. The next day the general comes back. The Even Ezra says to him, I need you. He says, now you're talking differently. He said, I said the same thing I said yesterday. Yeah, but yesterday you said it with a niggin that you're lucky I didn't kill you right there and then. Now you're saying it with a niggin that may cause me to save your life. So now you understand why I would risk my life for a nigun, he says. There's life and there's putting the nigun on life. We learn from the Chavetz Chaim when there's a big storm outside, it's Tata, was willst du? Not Tata, was willst du? It's was willst du. So in this week's Sedra, there's a mitzvah to write a Sefer Torah, which is technically the last Sefer Torah, last mitzvah in the Torah. Mitzvah to write Sefer Torah. And most Rishonim hold that included in that is Svarim. Why? Because when you learn Torah, you're saying Tata was willst du. That's the Baal Tanya says. Whether you're learning Sharsha Nagach Asapara, whether you're learning Perek HaKoinis, whether you're learning Masechta Sukkah, whether you're learning Hilchas Ribbis, whether you're learning Hilchas Pidyon Petach Hamor, you're saying one thing. Tata, was willst du? Tata, what do you want? I want to do what you want. That's the ultimate relationship between us and the Kadosh Baruch Hu. That is Ahava Rabbah. Says the Chinuch, why is there a mitzvah for everyone to write a Sefer Torah and to buy Svarim? You can go to this medrash and learn. No. We want the Sefer Torah to be in your house. We want you to have access to it whenever you can. Access to it? Yes. We want to bring the Torah into your life. There's a story after Simchas Torah, one of the DP camps. They were singing and singing on Simchas Torah. There was no Torah, no Torah. Then they saw a little kid. They said, here's a Torah. And they picked him up and danced like they never danced before. We want to bring the Torah into your life. Says the Chavetz Chaim, hey, take a look. Right after the Torah talks about Hastaras Panim, that Hashem hides His face, what do you have the mitzvah? Va'atu kizru lechem es ashira hazais. Because if you learn Torah in this manner, this is my prescription. This is God's will. Rabbi Shloim, this is the blueprint of my life. Please let me understand it. Explain to me what you want. Let me fulfill it. Then the Hastaras Panim goes away. Then it's v'hasam imenu yagan v'yanach. You know, there's a kind of a sad mashal Chavetz Chaim says, but I don't remember if we mentioned this last week or not. Chavetz Chaim says there was a young boy who lost his father. Came to learn the yeshiva, but he lost his mother, and no one knew how to break it to him. So they wanted to cushion the blow. So they went out and they got him a brand new suit. He saw the brand new suit, he goes, wow, for me? Yes, custom made. He puts it on, he can't believe it. Never in his life would he have thought. In those days, a person owned one suit of life. When you became a chassan, you got a suit, but they made it a little bigger to accommodate the extra maturity over the years, and that was it. There was a one suit per person. A new suit was amazing. And then he puts his hands in his pocket and he takes out a note that says, your mother died. So somebody once told me, that's such a cruel mashal. I said, whoa. It's Chafetz Chaim's mashal. It's not cruel. But that's supposed to buffer the blow that his mother died, that he got a new suit. It's frivolous. It's not. Because you know what the Chafetz Chaim is saying? He's saying, guess what, boy, my young, it looks like your life came to an end now. It looks like you have no one in the world to take care of you. But guess what? The Rebbeinu Shem has prepared for you a new suit, because life is going to go on. That's what they were trying to tell him. So Zak the Rambam, how does a person do tshuva? You need three factors. Oisai Makaim, Oisai Eis, and Oisai Isha. Person was nichshel in a terrible aveira. You have to come back to the same place, same time, and the same person that he was nichshel in the aveira with. What does it mean, the same person? You're not allowed to put yourself into an asayin. I should go back, reconstruct the aveira, and see how I do. You're not allowed to do that. So let's say, well, you have to wait for it to happen again. By chance, you're in the same place with the same person. But how is it Oisai Eis, that time? That time already passed. How am I supposed to do tshuva? It has to be that time, that person, that place. The person and the place can come around again. But that time will never come around again. Once time comes, it's gone forever, is it not? So some say, it means the next Gilgul. Some say it means when you're in the same mood, same emotional mood at that same time. But others explain that there's a cycle in your life. Our life runs in a cycle. And we're tested, but HaKadosh Baruch Hu doesn't just give us pass-fail. Because things run in a cycle, things come around again where we have a chance to fix what went wrong the last time. I remember, and I was one of the local bus companies when they first came out. They first got coach buses. I'm not going to mention names. And the driver was still the owner of the company. We were sitting, and he's driving this big coach bus, and he goes off the route. And he goes, where are you going? We're like, oh, I'm in it. He drives by his house. His wife left his lunch on the mailbox. They have these outside mailboxes. His wife left the lunch. So he's like trying to scoop it, but this bus is much higher. So he's like, we need to go over, and he misses the lunch. It's on there. So we go to the corner, we come all the way around again. He tries again. Everyone's like, it's late, we have to get to work. Shah, comes around. Third time, got it, It goes around. Life goes around. Whatever happens in your life is going to happen again at certain points in your life. And the reason it works that way is so that HaKadosh Baruch Hu gives us the opportunity to pick up the lunch that we missed the first time. I read this story, and somebody from Square Town said this story. He wrote in one of the journals. He said that when he was a little boy, he was riding in a school bus on Bedford Avenue, and he was leaning on the back emergency door, and the latch apparently was not latched. The door opened up, and this kid fell out of the back of the bus, hit the pavement, and a car coming toward him screeched to a stop. He couldn't manage to stop, so he swerved out of the way onto the sidewalk, didn't hit anybody. And everybody came running, and there was a whole garage, and everyone came, and a whole balagan. And the kid, went to the hospital, they checked him out, came home with a couple of bruises. It turned out later that this accident happened in front of a house, where the story was, where his mother lived there as a girl many years ago when she first got married. There was an elderly woman there who had to take a certain medication to keep her alive, and she refused to take the medication. She doesn't care. She didn't believe the doctor diagnosed it properly, and doctors told you're going to die if you don't take this medicine. So she made it her business every single day. She came to this lady, and they schmoozed, and they had a tea, and she put little drops of the medicine into the tea every single day. And she did this for a while, and the lady lived for many years afterwards. And it turned out that this story happened in front of that house. Happened in front of that house. And he writes further that the guy that screeched to a stop behind him was the son of this lady. And he writes that it happened on this lady's yahrzeit. Oisei Mokaim, Oisei Eis, Oisei Isha. It's not just an Aveira. Everything in our life comes in cycles. You do something with Mesiras Nefesh, and sometimes we think that chesed is like a soda machine, Hey, God, pay me back. Look what I did. I did such a ma'aseh chesed. Come on, I'm not supposed to get a parking ticket on the day I did chesed. So the Rebbeinu Shalom doesn't treat it like a soda machine. The Rebbeinu Shalom says, I'm going to wait till the cycle comes around again, and you need it. He had to fall off in front of this house at that moment and at that time. Whatever we do in the course of our life repeats itself in a sense of cycles. And that's why there can't be an instant punishment or an instant reward for mitzvahs. because it has to come back to exactly where you are, person, place, and thing, which, as Rabbi Tzaddik explains in Shemayim, is really one. You know, a guy goes and he has a fight with his wife. You know, the doorbell rings and she goes, she sees a flower shop. She feels so good. He opens up, the guy walks in with 6 bouquets of flower. 6 bouquets. Wow, that's so... She calls up, why 6? He says, well, I figure wholesale is cheaper, so that's for the next 5 times you're going to get angry, okay? Suffice it to say that they didn't do the job. It's not a soda machine. You do chesed, let me do chesed now 10 times, so I have to do it the rest of the day. It happens, the opportunity for chesed comes up at a certain time and place and with the person in your life, and it'll come back to reward you at a certain time and place, and the same is true for an aveira. An aveira, or the opportunity to sin, will come up at a certain time with a certain person in a certain place, and that cycle will repeat itself in order for you to have a chance to do tshuva. So that's the inyan of the yard site. It's the inyan of the Yemei HaChodesh. And that's what it means, Sifrei Chaim v'Sifrei Mesim Menachem L'Fanecha. The Rebbe says we should say Hallel, Sifrei Chaim v'Sifrei Mesim Menachem L'Fanecha, and we should say Hallel. So what does that mean, Sifrei Mesim? Because Baruch Hu judged the Mesim already. So some Sefer says he has a tradition that your fathers and grandfathers daven along with you. They're there together with you. But some say there are cycles. Even for the Mesim Shemayim there are cycles. There are cycles that he has rejudged based on what he did down here in this world, because that cycle repeats itself again down here in this world. So we do certain things down here in this world that has an impact on others. And therefore the cycle, the ripple effects keep going. And therefore there are times in Shemayim where it comes up again. And in our emotions there are seasons. Just like outside, there is fall and spring and summer and winter. In our emotions, sometimes there are storms, sometimes we're depressed, sometimes we're frightened. And just like there are different places in the world with our longer summers and longer winters, no two people have the same emotional seasons. And those emotional seasons work in cycles. And they work in cycles because in terms of my nisayon on this world, when I'm furious and angry and I say the wrong thing, don't worry, the time will come when I'm furious and angry again. And at that point, stop short. At that point, stop short. Realize, if you think about this, Rabbi Tzaddik explains this. Wait a second. Deja vu. This sounds familiar. I was once in this place. I had this same hergish. Last time I bopped someone over the head, I want to do it again. Right. Don't you realize that Kadosh Baruch Hu recreated the entire scene in order for you to be able to do tshuva? So Rosh Hashanah is considered the entire year. There were tzaddikim who said Rosh Hashanah is the entire year. The rest of the year is just what? It's just a pirish on Rosh Hashanah. What does that mean? What happens on Rosh Hashanah and subsequently the Aseres Yom Tshuva, Yom Kippur, even through Hoshana Rabbah to a certain extent. I think it says from the Rizal, from others, means Chamishasa B'Av, when they chopped wood. At Shoyev Meimecha is Hoshana Rabbah, where they drew the water. Kadosh Baruch Hu is now planning your cycles for the entire year. So throughout the year there are going to be ups and downs. But right now that itinerary is being arranged, and more important than that, the ability that we have to recognize, I'm in this mode again, I'm in this cycle again. Get it. I remember one of the spaceships that NASA sent to Mars was like a $10 billion project. Somebody by mistake fell asleep or pulled the wrong button, or maybe he was opening a chocolate wrapper, by mistake hit something, I don't know what the story was, but boom, it disappeared. They lost it, $10 billion. Okay, federal government, $16 trillion deficit. So they said, they were hoping, I don't remember what happened, but they were hoping that in 24 hours it'll come back again. There's a cycle in 24 hours, they'll be able to grab it. Then they said that there's a cycle that goes every year, and every 10 years, and every 20 years. And maybe, Shkoyach, thank you very much, maybe in 20 years they'll be able to catch it again. Everything, that's how the Rebbeinu Shalom made this world. The Rebbeinu Shalom didn't give us a straight line. Everything evolves in cycles so that we have an opportunity to fix it. But if you don't fix it, you got to go all the way around the block again to get your lunch. Shkoyach, thank you, Menachem. So someone told me, so there's a whole shaila with crock pots. Shlomo Zalman has a chumrah, a certain type of crock pot. I'm not going into halacha. There's a shaila of atmana, which means that you can't use it on Shabbos because something is completely hidden. And so one of the eitzes is to lift the interior, that it should protrude a little bit above. So the way to do it is you put on little metal blocks, little kugelach. So I remember in yeshiva there was a story, at least someone told me the story, that they told the guy, good eitzah is to take a tuna fish can. He meant to say an empty can. This person put in a full tuna fish can. The one with the oil, that's with the spices inside. Okay? And in the middle of the night, these Bachrim are sleeping in the dorm, and all of a sudden, kaboom! What's happening? Al Qaeda, oh no, right? Everyone's running for their lives, ducking for the head for the miklat, head for the bomb shelter. And they go running out. The apartment is dripping in chunk. There's chunk all over. This was a massive explosion of chunk. This was a 9-meter cannon of chunk. Boom, exploding. So what'd you do? He says, I put it in what you told me, a tuna can, not a full tuna can, an empty tuna can. Yeah, that's a problem, huh?
Happens to me too.
Happens to you also, yeah. So, Uncle Yanko, what do we learn from this? We learn that sometimes the Kodesh Baruch Hu gives us an empty can, and we say the can is empty. I wanted a full can, but he gave me an empty can. The Moshe knows when your can is supposed to be empty. He knows when it's supposed to be this way, and that's why there's an up and down cycle. That's why your attitude toward davening is not the same. One day, I had a great Shachris. Musaf, I was like, that ball's filled. Musaf was great. Shachris, the first day was okay. The next day was already. First day, I was sleeping. The next day, we never have the same attitude toward the Shemon Esrei because each Shemon Esrei has to accomplish something else. So it's coming from a different perspective. Somebody once told me Rosh Hashanah, I had such a mamish. Friday night, I had a scare of my life. Whatever it was, a medical issue. He said, in the morning, I had scared one of my kids. In the afternoon, there was a letter that came, and I was sure it was from the IRS. The whole Yom Tov, I was going nuts. Matzi Yom Kippur, I looked at it, I saw it was a tzedakah envelope that, for whatever reason, makes their insignia the same way, for whatever reason. I said, so the HaKadosh Baruch Hu scared me with every conceivable way possible this Rosh Hashanah. I said, maybe, because in Rosh Hashanah you have the koyach to daven, that everything should be okay, and that you should do things right so you don't get into trouble. So HaKadosh Baruch Hu set it up so you have the koyach of tefillah. Maybe that was the point. Maybe it's like an antibiotic. What's an antibiotic? It's you put it in so the antibodies wake up. Maybe you were scared in different ways because the antibodies had to wake up in a certain way. So the emes, some say that during this time of year there are certain pachodim that we go through, certain fears. Those fears are a bracha. So in turn we are mispal with like an antibiotic, so we are mispal and get our acts together so we don't have the problem. If a man goes over to a woman and he says, Ariyat Mekudeshes li, he should be Mekudesh to me, on the condition that I am a tzaddik. Not a teddy bear, uncle, a tzaddik. I am a tzaddik. So the din is, even though he hangs out every night in Atlantic City gambling, and he's not exactly a tzaddik, however, or other mishalim that would not render him off the tzaddik list, she's Mekudeshes, he's possibly Mekudeshes. Why? I'm a nashani tzaddik, he's not a tzaddik. Shema here at tshuva, maybe at that moment he was thinking tshuva, gets married, maybe he's thinking tshuva. Come on. Tshuva, there's a process to tshuva. Asks the Minchas Chinuch, what's the process to tshuva? Charata, you have to regret what you did. You have to have kabbalah ala asid, you accept you're not going to do it. Vidui, he didn't do any of this. He just said Ariyah Mekudeshes li. So some say, chasen your machlon is a virus. So that's more drush than it is. So the Minchas Chinuch says there's two dinim. For tshuva to work, you have to have all of the laws of tshuva, all three, the basic 3 steps. Regretting the past, accepting the future, and vidui. But to become a tzaddik, all you need is to be mahara b'tshuva. One thing is not a steer to the other. Well, what does the Minchas Chinuch mean? How does this work? To become a tzaddik, I don't need all the 3 steps, but to do tshuva. So how could I become a tzaddik without doing do tshuva? And the answer is like this. And I told you the story, I think, several times. I'm just going to repeat it again for the benefit of the little girl in the hospital. She's sick. She's so sick. She's so sick. And they're trying to bring her presents and nothing doing. No presents, no gifts. Right? And I told you. So the woman comes and says, look what I brought you. I don't want to see it. I don't need balloons. I brought you a ring. I don't need a ring. The ring is for you to give to your mother as a gift. Her eyes lit up. There are times that the tsar is not over. But once we get this into our heads, that it's not our bag of cookies to start with, that all of life is a gift. And my nisyanis is a Kadosh Baruch who took the time to create the problems and the complications and the missing parking spots, so the more serious things in life, so I can do tshuva. So I can do a mitzvah that's going to save me down the road. When this cycle comes around, that doesn't mean you did tshuva yet. You still have to do it, but you're singing the right niggin. You change from, what do you want, to, what do you want? Tell me what you want and I'll do it. Very, very big difference. Major, major difference. So the Noam Elimelech, Rebbe Melech, is going to sleep at night, and he's very distressed. The Russian government, the Tsarist government, new law. No Jewish boys allowed to get married until they finish their 20 years of military service, A, and B, they speak fluid Russian. And the Rebbe Melech, Rebbe, break the Gzeira, Rebbe, break the Gzeira! Rebbe can't break the Gzeira. He tries so hard, he cannot break the Gzeira. The Rebbe Melech slept 2 hours at night until Chatzos, and all of a sudden he wakes up right before Chatzos. He feels different. At the crack of Chatzos, he's overwhelmed with a simcha. He feels in Shemayim, they broke through, there's a shine. He says, quickly get my 2 Talmidim, Mendel of Rimanov and the Chayz of Lublin. Go call them. The Gzeira was broken. They said, well, they're not in shul. They're not home. Well, where are they? They're by chuppah. And he runs to the center of the town. There's a chuppah. There was a Yasam and a Yisayma. And they decided, we're going to sit and cry. We're going to get there right before the deadline. The law goes into effect at 11:59. Boom. Then we can keep dancing. So he said to them, you know what you just did? You synchronized your chesed to the time of ultimate din, when the Gzeira was supposed to go into effect. And the chesed neutralized the din. So the Minchas Elazar says also, you see by the Miyaldas, the midwives, it says, they waited for the exact moment that Pari gave them the order, now kill the baby. That's when they gave life. If at the moment of your greatest pachad, you turn around and give life, and you say, life is going to go on, even though I'm not in the mood of life going on, I have a new suit, the Rabbi Hashem gave me this new suit, the cycle will repeat itself, I'm down but I'm going to be up, life goes on, and if you do it at the precise time when it hurts the most, and you least feel like getting on with life, you have cracked the Gzeira. So there's a story of a young man who was a tailor. The pirates called him over. He wasn't that good of a tailor, but he had a great sense of humor. And the pirate says, what do I look like in this new thing? He says, you look thin. He says, aha, you're a great tailor. I think I'm more of a magician in your case, he says. He says, I like your sense of humor. And he hires him, and then he calls him at night to be like a stand-up comic. And all of a sudden, from becoming a tailor, he became a stand-up comic, which, as you know, in the entertainment business is much more lucrative. And the pirates calls him to all the parties. And his wife says, I don't like you going to those parties. What are you talking about? I like you being a simple tailor. You know what kind of money I'm making over here. Come on, what's with you agents? You know, I don't mind the commercials, my name's and all the sneakers, the parts as comedian. Come on. And all of a sudden his Yiddishkeit starts dropping, and his clothes starts changing, and his hair starts changing, and his kashrus starts changing, and soon he's gone. He leaves his wife and kids, these wild parties, and there's a terrible, terrible tragedy going on over here. And his jokes, after a while, get stale. Because, like the Gemara says, the Ganef also says, before he's about to steal, Hashem help me, without Siyata D'Shmaya, you can't do the Aveira either. And finally the pirate says, you know, your jokes are not so funny anymore. You're basically repeating yourself. It's like, he says, come on, you used to make fun of Jews, it was so good. He goes, the same jokes again and again. So he says, you know what, there's a big Rebbe, the Baal Shem Tov is coming to town. He says, go to him, I'll watch his tish, and I'll get a lot of new schoira. You know, I'll watch his tish, imitations will get. So he goes to the tish, and he's standing there, and in the middle of Baal Shem Tov is quiet, and suddenly he starts saying, he goes, you know, in life we're all imitating ourselves. We're all imitating ourselves. As long as we think we're imitating ourselves, we don't get anywhere. Until we have to come to the realization of who we really, really are. And he hits him very hard. And he bursts into tears. And he realizes now, he says, the Baal Shem Tov basically explained to him, you needed HaKadosh Baruch Hu till now. You see, without HaKadosh Baruch Hu, your jokes aren't funny. The Pirates doesn't like you. So you're using HaKadosh Baruch Hu's help to go against him. Don't you realize he was giving it to you as a test? V'haraya, without him you can't do it. In any event, he throws himself to the floor and he asks for a tshuva. And the Baal Shem Tov says, they got a pretty long rap list over there. What's it called? The list the person has for, Goyis Tzutz there. A lot of Aveiros there. So he gave him a tshuva. The tshuva was a very difficult one. Basically, he had to come back to his town. The entire week, he slept in the Beis Medrash. He made up with the Gabbai that he would hide in the bima. Friday night, the Gabbai would open the bima and take him home to eat a little bit. And he would come back in, he would fast Ben Shabbos l'Shabbos. It wasn't an easy tshuva. And every Friday, he was like, oh. And once the Gabbai was late, and he was before Yom Tov, and he ran out, and he forgot to let him out. And he's waiting and waiting, and he's dying. It's after 6 days. And he's banging, and there's no one there. Help, help. And some guy, a little shikker from Shalom Zacher, walked in. He sees the beamer jumping up and down. He says, I better go home. I'm not feeling good after that beer. And help. And he resigns himself to the fact that he's going to die tonight. And he lays down. He says, I ask you one thing, HaKadosh Baruch Hu, that at least my tshuva should be accepted. Like the Vart I told you last week. What's the difference in a Salem man? Somebody once told Shavarska Rebbe that he saw a Polish Yid, the Nazis line people up and mow them down, and people were screaming Shema Yisrael. Some got to Hashem Elokeinu, that's all, and then they died. They were Harugim al Shem Kachecha, and some managed to say the word Echad. They were Tvuchim al Yechidecha. He says, I hope I made it far enough for my tshuva to be accepted. And he felt a certain peace, and he lay down to die that Friday night. Meanwhile, the Gabbai is tossing and turning at night. He says, what did I do? What did I do? Where did I? Something epis I forgot. Was it to take out the wine? Was it to fold the towels? Was it to put the chont up? He goes, that poor guy in the bima, whoa! In his pajamas, he races through the streets, lifts the guy, kicks him up, throws water on him, wakes him up, and finally at this point, he gets a messenger from the Baal Shem Tov and says, go home. And he goes home, he knocks on the door 3 o'clock in the morning, his wife says, get away, get away, get away, and the messenger comes to his wife, now you can take him in. And they leave, and he becomes a simple tailor in a town very far off. And once the Rav of that town walks out at night, and he sees this light coming out of the house, he knocks on the door, there's no light, walks away, the light comes again, knocks on the door, okay, Perchas stories will take 3 weeks this part, but we'll make it late because it's after a tinus. The end he says, come on, what's the deal? He says, Eliyahu Navi comes to learn with me, but I don't know if you're on the level to see it. He says, what did I do wrong? I'm not on the level. He says, you really have to be willing to give everything up. And you're not mamash at that darga. So he said, can you teach me what he's learning with you? I'll ask permission. And later when the tailor passed away and the Rav ordered the entire town to come to the Levaya, he told them the whole story. Okay, so stories are stories. But I will tell you one thing. I think we all feel this. There is a time that we feel like we're locked in the bima. There's a time we feel like we're locked in the bima and our one hope of someone opening the bima is gone. And at that point you can scream and say, what do you want? Or you can say, Rebbeinu Shalom, so tell me now, I'm ready. And when you do that, maybe you have a still way of doing tshuva. But one thing's for sure, you're already a tzaddik. Good gebench yar, like a